Okay, let's talk about the US housing market, because right now it feels like it's telling two completely different stories at the exact same time. One report will tell you things are looking up, while the next one says we're still stuck. So today, we're going to dig right into that contradiction. So, what is the real story here? Is the market finally starting to heat up for the spring season? Or are we still stuck in a deep freeze? That's the big question, right? So let's dive in and try to make sense of all these mixed signals together. And right off the bat, here's where things get interesting and, frankly, a little confusing. The National Association of Realtors says existing home sales were up 1.7% in February from the month before. That sounds pretty good, right? A step in the right direction. But if you zoom out just a little, you see that sales are actually down 1.4% from this time last year. That's the puzzle we're trying to solve, this short-term gain versus the long-term lag. All right, let's start with the good news first. Let's look at the optimistic side of the coin, because there are some genuine signs that conditions are actually improving, especially if you're one of the many people who's been waiting on the sidelines to buy a house. This number you see here, 117.6, is a really big deal. It's the NAR's Housing Affordability Index, and here's all you need to know. A higher number is better for buyers. It basically means that a typical family has more than enough income to actually qualify for a mortgage on a typical home, so this is a very good sign. And this isn't just some random one-month blip. This reading is the highest it's been since way back in March of 2022. In fact, this marks the 8th straight month that things have gotten a little more affordable. It's a slow burn, for sure, but it's a steady trend that's headed in the right direction. So what's behind this? What's driving it? Well, a huge piece of the puzzle is mortgage rates. Just look at this. A year ago, the average 30-year fixed rate was almost 7%. This past February, it was just over 6%. Now, a 1% drop might not sound like a lot, but believe me, that makes a massive difference in your monthly payment and your overall buying power. It's a real game changer. And you don't have to take my word for it. Here's NAR's chief economist, Lawrence Yun, basically connecting all the dots for us. He points out that it's not just that mortgage rates are lower. For the first time in a while, people's wages are actually growing faster than home prices. People have more money, borrowing is getting cheaper, and, just like he says, consumers are responding. But, and you knew there was a but coming, it is not all good news. Not by a long shot. So let's flip the coin and look at the other side. Because despite all those positive signs, there are some serious headwinds that are keeping the market from really taking off. You know, Lisa Sturdivant, who's the chief economist at Bright MLS, one of the biggest listing services in the country, she just absolutely nails the mood here. There are tons of people who want to buy or sell. The demand is there, but nobody seems to be in a rush. It's like this collective hesitation, with buyers and sellers just kind of staring at each other, waiting for someone else to make the first move. So why is everyone so hesitant? Well, it's a mix of a few things. The huge one, the absolute elephant in the room, is that there just aren't enough homes for sale. Inventory is still painfully low. You add in some general anxiety about the economy and, yeah, even the rough winter weather, and you get a market that's just kind of stuck in first gear. Let's dig into that inventory problem for a second. Okay, so supply is growing, but the key word here is sluggishly. At the pace things are selling right now, there's only about 3.8 months of homes available. Now, to put that in perspective, a normal, balanced market is considered to have around 6 months of supply. So yeah, we're still very much in a seller's market. And you know what happens when you have low supply and steady demand, right? You get relentless pressure on prices. I mean, this timeline just says it all. For 32 straight months, that's nearly 3 years, home prices have been higher than they were the year before, non-stop. And all of that pressure leads to this number right here, $398,000. That was the median price for an existing home in February. So even with affordability getting a little bit better, that is still a massive hurdle for a lot of potential buyers out there. And of course, this isn't a one-size-fits-all story across the country. It really depends on where you live. Check out this regional breakdown. In the Northeast and the Midwest, sales actually fell by over 4%. But then you look at the South, which is the nation's biggest market, and it actually squeaked out a tiny little gain in sales. And then there's the West, where sales dipped, but it was the only region to see prices actually fall a bit compared to last year. It's a completely different picture everywhere you look. So in this super complex market, who's actually managing to buy a house? This snapshot is fascinating. First-time buyers made up 34% of sales, which is an encouraging bump up from last year. That's great to see. But look at that other huge slice of the pie. All cash sales made up nearly a third of all deals. It just goes to show you that buyers who can avoid getting a mortgage still have a major, major advantage. Okay, so all of this brings us to the really important spring home buying season. And just when we thought the main thing to watch was mortgage rates, a whole new source of uncertainty, a new curveball, has entered the picture. Yeah, while rates were trending down for a bit, they've recently become a lot more volatile, more jumpy. And the reason for that isn't really our domestic economy, it's international conflict, specifically tensions with Iran. Those kinds of global events can send ripples through financial markets and end up impacting borrowing costs right here at home. And here's Lisa Sturtevant again, laying out the two potential paths forward perfectly. A quick resolution overseas could mean the market bounces back and those lower rates return. But a prolonged conflict could send rates ticking up again, and that could stall out the spring season just as it's supposed to get going. So we are left with this fundamental standoff. You've got hopeful buyers on one side who are encouraged by better affordability and their wages finally going up. And then you have hesitant sellers on the other side who are kind of locked in by low inventory and all this uncertainty. It really leaves us with one big question. What is it going to take to finally break this housing market's gridlock?